Hey everybody, this is 𝙈𝙀𝙾𝙍 of 𝙂𝙍𝙊𝙎. It is Monday, January 24th, 2022, and unfortunately we got some pretty interesting breaking news over the weekend and what could be some of the most important breaking news and important information that I've ever brought to you on the channel. The U.S. is pulling its diplomats out of Ukraine after the Russian buildup of about 100,000 troops on and near the border. And I'm also hearing from some of my contacts that the U.S. is preparing military supplies and troop movements and aircraft carriers to go over to support potential conflict in Eastern Europe. And this looks like it's getting very serious very quickly. No reports of any skirmishes right now, but it looks like the U.S. and Russia may be positioning for a hot conflict over Ukraine, potentially leading up to a larger, broader conflict and potentially even a war. Of course, we hope that this doesn't happen. Last time the U.S. was in a world war, back in the 40s, my father was involved in the D-Day landing. He was the 7th Naval Battalion. He was medical as well as communication support and was there supporting the troops on D-Day, and then of course marched in and supported the effort all the way into Germany. And I know from the stories that I've heard about that journey that that's not something any of us really want to be a part of, so hoping it doesn't happen. But very, very serious. I've got a lot of people pinging me at 3 and 4 o'clock this morning saying the potential for conflict in Ukraine between the U.S. and NATO members, specifically the U.S., is ratcheting way up. I suspect that if there is skirmishes, well, let's just say if Russia invades Ukraine, and it involves other European nations, potentially the United States, that gold prices will skyrocket, and that will change the value of the precious metals, silver as well, and it may be much harder for people to get. So if you have not got your precious metals, now may be a good time to do it because they may become a lot more expensive very quickly. Last week on the channel, I did a live last Tuesday talking about how the bullion banks have gone net long in silver. We're going to check those numbers again for this week, and I'll talk about that again this Tuesday on our live stream, whether the bullion banks are still long. We'll look at the updated COT information from the CFTC, but it looks as like they were preparing for silver to spike higher. In fact, the only people that had really sizable net short positions in silver last week were the producer merchant category, which makes sense because they're hedging their down price risk, especially the producers. The downside price risk to silver between the time they mine it, get it out of the ground, refine it, and take it to market, they need to protect their downside price risk, so they go short. That made sense. And for the first time that I've been watching the silver market, the COT report actually made sense, where you would expect people to be the wealthy individuals, the hedge funds and the financial interests in the bullion banks all being net long silver. So it could be that they had an inkling of what was going on through their contacts and went net long for that reason because of potential for Ukraine crisis, or the banks track a lot of things. There could be economic reasons as well. Of course, we know the economy is floundering right now. We're having worsening supply chain issues. And there's a lot I want to talk about the supply chain, a lot of data and intel I'm getting, but I'm going to wait to do another breaking video on that. This is more important. The situation with Ukraine is very, very tenuous right now. Everything in the market is selling off. I just checked the stock markets, gold, silver, typical assets that will sell off during really bad potential market news. I think the Dow and S&P were down over 2%. Silver was down over 2%. Gold was down a little bit less than that, but pretty much everything's selling off. That's normal in a market where there's a lot of risk, and we're talking about potential hot conflict, especially with the U.S. Things are going to sell off. Now, some things will recover. I'll expect gold and silver to recover better. I do also expect the stock market to recover a little bit. But I do think that it's risk on right now in the markets, and so be careful with your trading or your positioning. A lot of things can happen very quickly and stop you out of your trades and cause you a lot of financial distress. So just be very careful. Of course, if you're in the physical precious metals, don't worry too much about the spot price of gold and silver. The demand's going to go way up if we do have a hot conflict, and eventually the price will follow. Again, not wishing this to happen, but I wanted to give you a review of the intel that I have received from some people that I trust, as well as what I'm reading in the press, and let you know how that's likely to affect the gold and silver markets if it does play out that way. Of course, we don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but it looks as though we're going to have a hot conflict in Ukraine sooner rather than later. Whether this leads to a bigger geopolitical and regional conflict, we'll have to see. I don't see how Russia could invade Ukraine and it not receive a response from a lot of the Western powers. Now, depending upon what that response is, how strongly it is, whether it involves troops or just sanctions or just rhetoric, political rhetoric, we'll have to see, but it's not looking too good. And this is what I need to talk about today. There are a lot of things I could talk about today, but this has to go to the top of the list. Whatever preparations you think that you need to make financially and otherwise, please make them. We'll continue to watch this, and we'll put more breaking news out as necessary on the channel. I probably, in tomorrow night's live stream, will also talk about this on the channel. We'll broadcast probably around 5:30, 6 p.m. We'll announce that tomorrow. And I'll talk about the conflict, any new updates and developments we have. I'm going to talk a lot about supply chain weaknesses tomorrow as well, so stay tuned to the channel for that. But the thing that you need to know today, a bigger crisis is brewing in Ukraine. It looks serious now. Of course, Russia moving troops to the Ukraine border was pretty serious, but now we've got the U.S. basically pulling out their diplomats. Lots of people coming to me thinking they're getting ready for war. A report in Market Watch and on CNBC that Biden may be moving troops to support a potential hot conflict. This is very serious. This is not gamesmanship. This is not political grandstanding. This is not political posturing. This is serious. And so we really need to pay attention to what's going on. And that has to be the focus of today. How could this potentially affect you and yours? I have a friend whose son is out in Georgia, and I was talking to him this morning. We did a FaceTime, and he's far away from the current Russian occupation of Georgia, but feels as though, hey, what happens to flights if there's a conflict in Ukraine? Do flights shut down across Europe? How does that affect travel? How could that affect, his egress out of Georgia if he needs to get out? And the conflict's not in Georgia right now, but if Russia does intend to rebuild its former Soviet bloc in the Eastern European states, Georgia could be on that list eventually, not just Ukraine. So monitoring that situation, hoping he is safe and doesn't get involved in the conflict, hoping the conflict, everybody stands down, we don't have a conflict. But I do have some sources watching this. I'll bring more to you guys as I get it. Of course, I'm not going to report anything that's just speculation. I'm just going to report what I hear from that I can confirm from multiple sources and multiple outlets. And so that's all I'm going to say for right now, but we will have more on the channel as this develops, definitely as I learn more. Big news today, guys. Definitely could have a huge impact on the future going forward if people are positioning for the next regional or potentially world war. Don't want to say that's what's occurring, but I can tell you from my time and experience working with people in various government agencies in the military, because my master's degree was at a private military college, and it was cybersecurity, and we're talking about security topics. I can tell you this, the U.S. is preparing for the next conflict for a number of years, even though that they haven't been mentioning it in the press. I know this from people who have worked in government. They were preparing for the next conflict as if it were inevitable. That doesn't mean that this situation with Ukraine is going to be the start of that, but given that information, I'm going to be following any potential conflicts with Russia, China, the US, Europe, very, very closely. We'll bring more on the channel. Just wanted to bring this to you guys. I've stopped everything today. This will be the only piece of content that I actually create today. I think we're going to have another video this evening for Mining Stock Monday that's already been produced, but I'm not focusing on content today. I'm focusing on putting my ear to the ground, listening, seeing what I can find out. And whatever I find out, I'll let you guys know. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll put it out there when we know it and when we can confirm multiple sources are saying the same thing. So if you've got guys who got loved ones in Eastern Europe, you have business out there, you have other interests out there, you may want to pay attention to those today and just reach out and make sure everybody's safe. All right, that's going to do it for this breaking news session. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. And again, stay tuned to Gold Silver Pros. We'll bring you more updates as they occur. Hey everybody, this is Robert. Thank you so much for watching that video content.
I have a couple of quick announcements I'd like to share with you as we head out of this video. First, I want you to know that on January 26, 2022, we're going to have our inaugural 2022 Metals Kickoff Conference. It'll be the first virtual conference of the year. We'll have many to follow. You can register for it by clicking on the link in the video description below, and which will take you to this page, and you can click to register for that event. We'll have many great speakers there that you guys love. 𝙈𝙀𝙍 from Prescott Capital, James Anderson from SD Bullion, John Fennick, Fennick Consulting, Dave Kranzler, Investment Research Dynamics, Andy Schechtman from Miles Franklin, Ian Everard from 𝙂𝙍𝙀, and more will be joining us, as well as a slew of companies if you're interested in investing. Also wanted to remind you, you can find us on goldsilverpros.com. We have a free newsletter. If you click here and enter your email address, we'll send that out every Monday to you, as well as we have special precious metals deals with leading bullion dealers here in the United States. If you click that button, you can go here and click on either Miles Franklin or 𝙂𝙀𝙀 and get the best deals in the business. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us on the channel. Until next time, this has been Gold Silver Pros.